Greg says he doesn't know, but nobody wants to listen to me, and Nathan is giving him a thumbs up. Well, praise the Lord, everyone. It is good to be back in church again tonight. And I have a testimony. And I'm not going to bother waiting for Pastor to say who has a testimony, because I don't want to wait until August of 2026. That was an interesting one. Like, okay. Is your phone off? Make sure your ringer's off. Yeah, okay, all right. Go ahead and double check, because I know how Kenzie is. She probably turned it on. She probably changed the ringtone or something, right? I have been trying to get my loan refund, my mortgage refinanced since like January. I think it was like the end of January we started this. It was supposed to be a simple process. It's all an internal process, same lender, life's good, blah, 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 right? Get a note back from the guy, the loan originator. He's like, very quickly, he's like, awesome, looks good, here's where you are, everything's great, fantastic, moving forward, big thumbs up, right? Of course, I bought my house last summer when rates were like at their peak, and then last fall, rates started to come down, whatever, right? It's funny, the people are like, I'm going to wait to buy a house until the rates come down. Oh, how long are you going to wait? And then they're going to go back up, and you're going to say, oh, I should have bought a house. But dude, just go do it, right? So I was like, fooey on it. I found the right house. I'm not going to wait. I'm going to buy it. Love it. 7 3/8%, whatever. Nope. God blessed me with an amazing house. It's awesome. Got a note back from the guy, whatever. The loan originator is like, yep, you got to sign your documents. You got to submit, DNA sample and a letter of recommendation from your children and copies of your driver's license and your passport and your mother's social security card. And the deal, right? And I'm over here thinking, it's all internal, right? 8 months ago, I went through this whole thing with them. Come on, it's all electronic, right? I'm an IT guy. I know it's in the database, right? It's still me, right? I'll cut off my thumb, send it to you so you can use my fingerprint. Come on, simplify this. And then the guy just vanished. So since February, I have been calling, I have been texting, I've been emailing anybody, random person I can. I'll call up the toll-free number, press 1 for English, press 1 for English. It transfers me. Ring, 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 and then it just goes into hold music. Didn't even tell me my call was important, right? Just straight to hold music, right? Now it was actually ignore. Hold implies that they're coming back. I was just on ignore, right? Truly. I went off to figure out, because you know the deal. You get your loan and 12 seconds later they sell it to somebody else. Don't bother going and getting a loan from the person or the whatever institution you want to be your lender, because they'll sell you off to whoever, right? Before I made my first payment, they'd already sold me off, right? I'm out there Googling, and it's like, is this place some just random fly-by-night? This is just absolutely ridiculous. Time had been going. Right before I went down to Greenfield, I got a letter in the mail, dated whenever, right? Beginning of the month, that said, oh, we didn't get all of the documents we need from you. You still need to submit these documents. And it looked like it was originally a bulleted list, and they had just deleted the lines that they didn't need. They didn't delete the whole line, so it was like you need empty space, and there was something, or 2 empty lines, and then there are 2 more lines, right? One of it was utility bill. What utility bill do you need, and how do I? And there was no place to upload it, nowhere to send it, fax it, anything it, right? I'm like, hi, great. You tell me you need this stuff. I'm happy to give you whatever you need. I don't have a clue. You didn't even tell me how to do it. They said, oh, yeah, and you must submit all of this within 2 weeks of the date of the letter. Otherwise, we throw your file in the trash. I didn't get the letter until 3 weeks after the date on the letter, right? This is just ridiculous, right? So, of course, and great. So I sent an email once again, because the letter came from, some assistant in the mortgage department. Cool, right? So I had 2 email addresses from this firm, right? And so I'm like, cool, I'm going to guess at this other guy's email address. I threw it in there, emailed him like, look, somebody just talk to me, right? Here's the file number, help me out, whatever. I'll do whatever you need, right? You want my children's kidneys? I'll send my son's kidneys, whatever. Just tell me what you need. Bueller, right? I mean, radio silence. Day before yesterday, finally I'm like, you know what? This is just stupid. Downrange because, we can get creative, right? So I went back and found my email. I hit reply all with the normal names of all the people who've been ignoring me. And I added in the president and 3 VPs and the senior manager of the mortgage department and the senior manager of the loan origination department. And I'm like, guys, it's all been radio silence. I've been trying for months. I can't get anything. I'm begging here. I'll do whatever. Somebody please help me. An hour later, somebody new called. He's like, hi, my name's Nikolai. I have been notified that I get to take over this phone. What can we do to get you across the finish line? You tell me. 5 3/4% fixed. That was 1.5 points off. And I pay there are no closing costs, there's no anything. I don't even have to sign anything. I didn't even need to submit any copies of any documents. They're like, I don't know, they should have done a title search, they didn't do it. I've already ordered it, and next week we should have everything. We give it to the underwriters, June 24th, you'll be finished. Don't even send in your June payment, just put it in the bank. We'll set it up so you don't have to pay for June or July. So I got a testimony, and I don't wait until 2026 for somebody to ask. So you want to know if God can do amazing things? Yeah, God can do amazing things. Well, he didn't do it then. He didn't do it then. Well, you know what? I sent an email. 24 hours later, I had a rate that was better than anything that the banking people have even heard of. To which I can only say, what a difference a day makes. 24 hours, right? Oh, what a difference a day makes. Seems like I heard something about that. I didn't know if that might resonate with anyone, right? They totaled it. So, and I haven't seen the deer lately, so I'm assuming that my counseling session went well and that he learned his lesson about standing directly in the path of oncoming traffic. He and his friend who observed the lesson. So yes, both of them appear to have learned their lesson well. They didn't? Nathan hit a deer this morning. Excellent. Well, it was probably the one I hit. It was probably, I don't know.
Well, I hit it with my Prius, so I just walked away. So.
Got it. That's, yes. Well, so, but between, if Greg and Sam are going to replace the Kia and you need a car and I need a car, we need to find a dealer that has the 3 used cars that all of us want. And we go in and we're like, okay, we'll buy all 3 of these, but you got to get we're not negotiating. We're telling you how much we'll pay. Or we go across the street to them. Yeah. Yep. So, and it's good. I mean, like I've said before, it's good to be lighthearted in church, right? I mean, come on. How many people have ever been to a Catholic service?
A wedding, oh my
Okay.
God, 2 hours.
Yeah, right? A Catholic wedding will last 2 to 3 hours, and at least half the people who are not regular attendees will consider slitting their wrists, right? Catholic services, it's all about the pomp and circumstance and whatever, and they don't even like read from the Bible. They give you good stories and good principles to live by. Being a devout Catholic can help you to be a great person. I 100% agree. I seem really good. I always thought that was sort of So yeah, I think it is important to be able to laugh about stuff. I also think it's important just to be real, right? I mean, I would hope that y'all have learned that about me by now. I'm just real. That's why a lot of people like to sit on the other side of the chair. Notice how many people sit on my side? Notice how many people sit on the other side? There's a reason for that. She's laughing. She's like, dude, you've been here for 3 years and you just figured it out. Right? Sister Shirley's just being polite. It's the only reason she sits on my pew. I love you too, Sister Shirley. I'll make you cookies. But yeah, I'm just about being real. And what's one of the realest things I can say? I screw up. I screw up a lot. You do too. I know y'all were all on board. There were a lot of like people thinking amen for the first a little bit, right? Francis, guess what? You fail, man. You really do. Right? I don't even know like where you live, what you do, but I'm telling you, you fail. And you know how I know that? Because you're human. Yeah, that was exactly it. I read your lips. Yep. Because we're human, right? Some people are like, you said I'm a failure. No, I said you fail. There's a big difference. There's a huge difference between failing and being a failure. If you fail and you recover and you learn, you're going to fail again. Just fail in a different way, right? What amazes me are the people that keep failing in the same way over and over. Like, you just like emotionally attached to that one? I like variety, right? But we all, let's face it, we're all just a bunch of screw-ups. I don't know if that's politically correct to say. They already kicked me out of California, so I guess I don't care, right? But truly, you think about it, and it's real easy to say, Sister Vicky, guess what? So-and-so failed. I can't believe it. Yes, I can. They just fail all the time. It seems like they can't stay out of trouble. They're always in trouble. They're always failing. They're always, my goodness, you know what? When I see you on Sunday, I'll bet, let's see, today's Thursday. That means Friday, Saturday, Sunday. When I see you on Sunday, they'll probably have failed 3 more times. They fail all the time. Okay. Because if I'm saying that, Sister Vicky's probably looking at me going, you don't fail often, but when you do, you go big, buddy, right? You're like, mic drop, right? Some people fail often. Some people fail big. I never look at somebody and think, wow, they really have it together. They never fall down. Oh, how often do you run around telling everybody about every mistake you ever made? Nobody does that. I share some of my stuff just so you can relate, right? But everybody fails, every single person. It's not an excuse, so don't go off and do something big and grand and say, well, Joe said everybody fails, and I didn't think I'd done anything bad this week, so I just had to get in my quota, right? No. It's not an excuse, it's a fact. The important thing is that we need to understand that it's a fact so that we can learn how to react and what to do about it. Not just when we fail, but when someone fails us. If Sister Vicky fails me, I can go running around saying, hey, John, guess what Sister Vicky did? She failed. And she does this all the time. I don't understand, man. You'd think that she'd figure it out. She keeps doing the same thing every single time. She's always failing. I'm not saying she's a failure, but she sure fails a lot, right? Oh, come on. We all know those people, right? Then what do? Then I turn around and walk away. Where's Sister Vicky? She's over here waiting to shake my hand. I didn't even look at her. I didn't even acknowledge her presence. Who's the bigger screw up here?
You.
Yes. So it's important for us to understand, as a fact, we all screw up. So, Francis, if I fail you, don't hold it against me. Come to me and talk to me. Shake my hand. Hug my neck and say, dude, you biffed it, man. Help me understand how to make it right. forgive me, and let's walk away as brothers. That's important. And that's why it's important to recognize the fact that we all do it. It's just a part of life. We need the forgiveness and the reconciliation of the people we love. I'm going to rephrase that slightly because after I wrote that down, I'm like, that is true, but that's not entirely accurate. We require the forgiveness and reconciliation of those that we love. It's not just a need. It is a need, but it is far deeper than a need. It is a requirement from those that we love. 1 John chapter 4. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Right. Yep. Right. Mm-hmm. Agreed. Yep. It's not just those that we know, it's also those that we don't know. And that's a sneak preview of where we're going. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. Verse 8. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. Look at that again. He that loveth not knoweth not God. Which goes, that's why I said that was a sneak preview, right? It's real easy to look at somebody and say, oh, I don't know. Okay, cool. Are you demonstrating a godly love toward that person whose path you crossed at the gas station? That person who stole your parking place, right? You got two people that work the cash registers at Baumgars in Storm Lake. They are the grumpiest people. And it's not just to me, so it's like they just seem grumpy with the world. Just these real young people, right? But it's like they haven't even given me a chance to offend them. And they're grumpy, right? And it'd be real easy for me to just be grumpy back. And I will freely admit.
But you don't know what they're going through. The reason why they're grumpy, there's a reason for it.
Yep. I freely admit the natural part of me just wants to play with it. Right? It's the, who is the Steve Irwin? Was that the crocodile, the Australian guy? Right? Like, ooh, look, it's a jumping tarantula. They can leap 6 feet. It's the most dangerous spider in the world. It's angry. I'm going to touch it, right? I mean, let's face it. Sometimes I feel the same way. It's like, oh, hey, Hunter, you're grumpy. Oh, yes. Challenge accepted, right? But no, I make a point of trying to be friendly. He that loveth not knoweth not God. And I like that. If you go back to verse 7, Greg. Let us love one another, for love is of God. Oh, isn't that the most Catholic thing you've ever heard in your life, right? Everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. See, so you should just love, and that way everybody's going to heaven. Nobody likes to look at verse 8, because verse 8, that's sort of the negative side of the same thing. And if you don't do it, you don't know God. Quit claiming to be his kid. Yes, sir. Are you stretching? Didn't know if you're stretching or waving. Oh, you're good. Totally good. Matthew 22, verses 37 through 39. Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. Oh, I love scriptures that talk about loving God. Yeah, well, what about the ones that say love your neighbor as yourself? Well, You haven't met my neighbor.
Mine either.
Right? I mean, I feel for you, Sister Cassie. Your neighbors, yep, I got you. My heart goes out to you, right? When I make cookies for Sister Shirley, you get cookies too, because, whoo, talk about some trying folks, right? This is the first and great commandment. Think about that for a minute. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. The love of God and the love for others, they are inseparable. Think about that for a minute. You can't love God and hate everybody. You can't hate all your neighbors, right? The love of God and the love for others are inseparable, and they form the very foundation upon which everything else is built. Well, how do you figure they form the foundation? It's the first and greatest commandment and the second one, right? This is where you start. This is foundational. Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. We're not going to read all of them. It's the story of the Good Samaritan. Who can tell me about the story of the Good Samaritan? Kinsey, tell me the story of the Good Samaritan. Hunter, tell me the story of the Good Samaritan. You don't know it either. No problem. Who knows the story of the Good Samaritan?
It's the one where the guy walked across. Somebody beat one of the Samaritan, and the priest went past and didn't take care of him, and then another person went past and didn't take care of him. But the one that took care of him was the Good Samaritan, and took him to the motel or wherever to take care of him, paid for the bill and everything, and took care of him.
Yep, absolutely. Did they know each other? No. Yep. Right. Treat other people the way you want God to treat you. That's foundational right there. Sister Shirley, that'll preach. So, it is. Absolutely. And yes, so there was some guy who was on the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. Now, the road from Jerusalem to Jericho is a very steep road. It is a very rocky road. What difference does it make that it's steep and it's rocky? You can't flee. If it's flat ground, what's your name, sir? John. We got 2 Johns tonight. It's perfect. I'm Joe, right? If I start chasing you and we're on flat ground, dude, I'm old, man. I'm old and I'm chubby. You can probably outrun me, right? Yeah, right? But now, if we're going up a 60-degree incline and there are big rocks and stuff, you ain't moving real fast, are you? There's a big difference. So the road from Jerusalem to Jericho was frequented by bandits and robbers because it was easy pickings. Let's face it. Why would you choose the middle of a field when somebody could run any direction that they want to get away from you? You're going to set up behind a rock where when you come out, you threaten somebody, they're going to look at you, they're going to look up, they're going to look down, they're going to be like, you know what? Go for it, right? This guy is traveling this road, this dangerous road. He didn't just get robbed. They beat the stuffing out of this man. I mean, they beat him. They knocked him so far into next week, Google couldn't find him. And this boy took a beating. He was lying there like he was dead. And along comes this priest, right? The priest walking along sees this guy. He's like, ooh, I don't want to have to deal with that one. And so he walks over to the other side of the path and just scurries on past. This Levite is walking along. Same thing. Walks up. He's like, what is that up there? Gets a little closer. He's like, looks like a guy. Oh, yeah. I'm going to go around this big rock because I want to be on the other side. And that way I didn't see him because he was on the other side of the rock, right? What's the importance, what's the significance of a priest and a Levite? They represented the law and piety. The law said, love your neighbor as yourself. They didn't do that. Piety, right? The pious ones, the holy ones, who are always helping those in need. When people are looking, they're making sure that they're in the front. They're never in the back in the soup kitchen. They're always serving, right? But when time came to help somebody who was in desperate need, they went the other direction. So much for the law and so much for piety. Now, you were right in that it was an enemy, but I want to draw out something specific. Sister Kim, if you don't like me, she's like, no problem, I'm on board already, right? If you don't like me, are you going to be inclined to help me? But if you try to be friends with me, and I hate you, and I try to destroy you, and I run your reputation into the dirt, and I backbite and gossip and try to make other people hate you, which is going to affect you more? Just your not liking me or the fact that I don't like you? It's the latter. It wasn't that the Samaritans hated the Israelites, it hated the Jews, the Israelites, right? Rolling back, the Samaritans came from when the Israelites moved into the area, set up shop, when foreigners moved in and the foreigners married the Israelites and they had mixed children. It wasn't just it wasn't the fact that it was the mixed races, it was that they brought the religion pieces too. The foreigners didn't leave their religion in the past. They brought it and it affected the family. And as the children adopted this bastardized religion, it was not Judaism. They did not follow the law and commandment of God. And they were considered heretics. The Jews thought of the Samaritans as heretics. The Jews were the ones who were putting the Samaritans down because the Samaritans suck so badly. Now this Samaritan is walking by, and here's this guy. Samaritan didn't hate this guy. It was that the other guy hated him so much. What did he do? He stopped. He loved him as he loved himself. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
I think some of the Samaritans, because they weren't intermarried with the Jews, they weren't following the rules and all the rituals that the Levites and priests had added.
Right.
They had a real relationship with the God of Israel.
Right.
Because he couldn't have loved if he hadn't had God's love in him.
That's right. So again, I say each time, we got to quit reading the Bible like it's a book, right? We read it, it's like, that was a really great story. It's not a James Michener novel, right? It's not written by, Michael Connolly, right? Dude, these are real things that really happen. This is real stuff, right? So think about what happened. The Samaritan went up, because we always think, the Samaritan went up and he checked on the guy and the guy wasn't in good shape. He didn't just snatch him up, throw him over his shoulder, and start booking it back to town, right? He did what he could to clean him up. Emptied his canteen, cleaned him up a bit, whatever, right? Tried to help him up, got him back. Probably took a while for him to get back to town. Think about this road. Every minute the Samaritan was on this road, the Samaritan's life was in danger. And he could have been thinking, oh man, I could be robbed. Dude, I could be the next one. The guys that did that, they're going to come back and they're going to kick my butt, right? But he took the time that was required to help someone who hated him, someone who considered him an enemy. Think of all of the extra time that he took, literally putting his life in peril. And when he got back to the motel, he did. He helped, you were the one, yep. He got him back to the motel, did what he could to take care of him, and then he stopped by the innkeeper and he's like, look, man, I left my Amex Gold card at home, but here's however much cash. This should be able to take care of the room, any doctors, food for him. Go ahead and DoorDash for him. Just use this money to pay for the DoorDash. Make sure you leave a good tip, right? And take care of this guy. And when I get back, if it costs any extra, if you don't mind spotting me, I'll make it good. Let the story become real. Think about what this guy did for somebody who wouldn't have spit on him if he'd been on fire. Love thy neighbor as thyself. How many times do we get our knickers in a twist, right? So-and-so said such and such to me, and I didn't think that was appropriate, so I'm just not going to talk anymore, right? Doesn't work with Sister Vicky. She'll show up and she'll keep shaking your hand. You got to love Sister Vicky. You can't not love Sister Vicky. She'll just make you love her. Sister Vicky, I love you. Praise the Lord. But we need to show love. Amen. Easy for us to talk about loving God. Do we show love to those that we know? Do we show love to those that offend us? Do we show love to people we've never met before? Right? This is important. Matthew 6, 14 and 15. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. It's kind of hard to forgive somebody if you hate them. If you hate somebody and they don't even come and ask for forgiveness, what are the chances that we as humans are going to, not only am I not going to forgive them, I'm going to hold that against them, because that's just the kind of human I am. And right? Sister Shirley says, then God has a right to do it to you. Yeah, exactly, right? But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Just like Sister Shirley said. You're setting yourself up, right? Go ahead. If that person is a mirror and the actions that you project will be bounced off and reflected up to God to give back to you. Think about it in those terms. Well, if God is going to magnify my actions, I want my actions to be good because I want a lot of good stuff instead of a lot of bad stuff, right? Luke chapter 15, verses 11 through 32. It's the story of the prodigal son. Again, we're not going to read the whole thing. Here's something I found interesting. So the story of the prodigal son. The son goes to the father and says what? Somebody, anybody, shout it out. Give me my inheritance. He was not the firstborn. He had no inheritance. It's easy for Greg shows up and he's like, you got 3 kids. I figure your will probably splits everything in thirds. I want my third. Yeah. But the way things worked back then, everything went to the firstborn. This guy who's not the firstborn shows up and says, hey, Pops, give me my inheritance. Legally, the response was, I just did. You didn't give me anything. Like I said, I just did. But that father loved his son. And he loved his son so much that he gave something of great substance to his son. We all know the story. His son took it, went off and squandered it, etc. When the son came to his senses, where was he? What was he doing? He was slopping the hogs. And he was so hungry, he wished he could have eaten the slop that he was given to the hogs. And that's a big piece right there. It's not just, we look at it and we're like, yeah, slopping the hogs. I mean, you don't give hogs the good stuff. You give hogs the leftover whatever, right? Oh yeah, it's moldy, it's whatever. It doesn't make any difference. The pigs will eat it. They turn it all into bacon, right? But this man was providing life for the animals that were unclean. He went that low that the unclean animals weren't just worthless, they were less than worthless. And his responsibility was to keep them alive. That's where he found himself. And so we all know the story. He went back home. The father saw him, said, my son is coming home. Kill the big fat calf. I don't want one of those skinny ones, right? Kill the fat calf. We're throwing a party. We are celebrating. We are pulling out the stops. Call everybody. We're having fireworks. We're having a barbecue. We are going whole hog. See what I did there? Right? Yeah. Right? Why'd you groan? Did you expect any less? Okay. Right? But think about it, right? When he showed up, it would have been real easy for the father to say, so, how's it going? I sent you off in a Corvette. Is that a Geo Metro? It's like a 1990s Geo Metro. Dude, it's like yellow. Seriously. Did well for yourself, didn't you? Yeah. Made some wise investments. Good life decisions, huh? Yeah. Made some good life decisions. Got any children that you know about? Right? It would have been real easy for the father to have this discussion. He didn't. And the older son got all bent out of shape. He's like, dude, I have been here working and slaving for you. I have treated you right the whole time. This idiot goes off, spits in your face, loses everything. The guy took part of my inheritance. You gave it to him. He blew the whole thing. He comes back and you're throwing him a party. You've never thrown me a party. When I was 6 years old, you let me have people over for my birthday party. You let me have 2 people over. And we couldn't even have a piñata. Right? I mean, think about the conversation. Make it real. And the father said, I loved him. And I forgave him.
When I read that story, I always think about somebody that spent their whole life walking with God. They received heaven and home with Jesus. So
Right.
We gotta be careful that we don't act like that older son.
Right. Absolutely.
I think God included what the older son done to make sure we judge ourselves,
The
not to be like them.
the story of the older son, I think, was included because we are humans. In this story, the father, the younger son, the older son, who do you relate to most? You don't have to answer that. I expect it's not just one person, but I expect that there are some days when maybe you might sort of lean toward the older son just a little tiny bit. And again, I'm just trying to be real here, right? Not saying anybody's a failure. We're human. Because we're humans, we're flawed. The story of the prodigal son is about love and forgiveness. But I say it's more than that. If it was about love and forgiveness, then when the younger son came home, the father would have gone running out to meet him, thrown himself on him, and hugged him like crazy. There was more to it. It was about love, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Reconciliation is the process of restoring broken relationships. Have you ever needed to be reconciled to God? Have you ever screwed up so much that you're like, God, I don't even know if you're listening right now. When your kids screw up big time, you ever ask them to tell you what their punishment should be? I used to do that. Never did my kids come back with something that was too light. They knew what they had done. I always had to pull them back because what they